Okay, welcome to IMC's Monday night sitting and Dharma talk. All right, I assume that the things are going okay. So we're going to begin this session with about half an hour of a guided meditation. And then I'll share some reflections based on a topic and that I bring in today. So let's begin the sitting. Maybe take a moment to find a posture that's supportive of meditative practice. I'm aware that today is the first night right after the full moon night since yesterday. Yesterday was a full moon night. And so in some sense, this is kind of an auspicious night. And so may we all have an excellent night or an auspicious night sitting together, practicing together. So maybe just take a few moments to settle into wherever you're meditating in. First, a few moments just to allow the body and mind to arrive. Arrive into here and now. It's often useful to begin by taking some long, deep breath. As you breathe out, just allow the body to relax. Feeling the connection of your legs and feet with the ground, the floor, and the chairs or the cushions. Having a sense of groundedness, grounded on earth. As the lower half of the body began to settle and rest on earth, allow the upper half of the body to rest and settle as well. Can you feel the weight of the arms, hands? Let the arms hang naturally. Maybe the torso is upright and neck is aligned with the spine, like an extension of the spine. Allow the muscles on the face to soften. And feel sensations on the top of the head, on the back of the head. Maybe just do a quick scan from the top of the head all the way down to the bottom of your feet, inviting ease, inviting relaxation, and softening. And then momentarily, if you're ready, we can turn our awareness to the movements of our breathing. Maybe it's a rising and falling of the belly, or the expansion and the contraction of the chest. Resting your attention on the movements of the breathing. Without trying too hard, simply resting, like putting a gentle hand and petting the little baby, stroking the baby. Soft, gentle awareness on the breath. The concerns of the past and future maybe can be faded into the background. Allow the foreground to be filled with the experience that's happening here and now in this body. Maybe tingling on the feet, warmth in your palms. Coolness of the breath. It's a sacred life force unfolding right here, right now. Now you can rest your attention, your awareness, right here in the whole body. It's as if the awareness is filled, imbued in the body itself. There is nothing to do to be aware. It's simply receiving the experience of the body and experience of the mind in the restful field of awareness. Maybe the sound is known. Sound of my voice or ambience sound. Silence in between. Vibrations in the belly. A thought. Tightness on the forehead. Everything, everything that's happening can simply be received and known. And pleasant experience or unpleasant experience. A moment of doubt, or a moment of wanting, grasping. Everything can happen on their own terms. This kind, gentle awareness is simply receiving. No need to fix. Boundless allowing. Some experience may be extremely challenging. Getting to know this through the embodied experience. Persistent, swirling emotions. How does it feel in the body? Are you aware? If the mind wandered away, it's never too late to start again, right now, this moment. Mindfulness is front and center, right now. If the mind wandered away, Just know that this temple of this body always has the door wide open for you. Always welcome to enter and return to the temple of this body. In this last few moments of our sitting, I'm going to read this poem, verses from a middle-length discourses. And the title of this poem is An Auspicious Day. Maybe you can listen to these words while you sit. Allow these words to drop into your awareness. However it might touch you, connect with you. Allow it to be received in the wide open field of awareness. And if something bubbles up, receive that too. An auspicious night. This is translated by Gil Franstow. The Buddha said, "Don't chase the past or long for the future. The past is left behind. The future is not yet reached. Right where it is, have insight into whatever phenomena is present, not faltering and not agitated. By knowing it, one develops the mind. Ardently do what should be done today. Who knows? Death may come tomorrow. There is no bargaining with mortality and his great army. Whoever dwells thus ardent, active day and night, is, says the peaceful sage, one who has an auspicious day. And the other translation of the auspicious day is a single excellent night. So welcome to our Monday night Dharma talk. And so what I had in mind today is to maybe unpack this poem a little bit together and just reflect upon this poem that I just read. And so I said that this poem sometimes, and the title is translated as a single excellent night or an auspicious day. And the first time when I read this poem, I was very touched. Without knowing anything about this poem, the context of it, and the significance of it, I took this poem with me to various locations. I read this poem to the Dharma sister who's in the hospital bed, and I took this poem and read it at a memorial service, and I took this poem to my heart. I memorized it and reflected upon this. And so maybe I'll read this poem one more time, and then we'll kind of unpack this together. And I'll unpack one stanza at a time. So, auspicious day. The Buddha said, "Don't chase the past or long for the future. The past is left behind. The future is not yet reached. Right where it is, have insight into whatever phenomenon is present, not faltering and not agitated. By knowing it, one develops the mind. Ardently do what should be done today. Who knows? Death may come tomorrow. There is no bargaining with mortality and his great army. Whoever dwells thus ardent, active day and night is, says the peaceful sage, one who has an auspicious day." So what does this mean, to not chase the past or long for the future? Past is left behind, the future is not yet reached. We all probably have experiences of this, and where we might be chasing the past or longing for the future, right? And for me, right away, what becomes vivid is, for most of us, when we are getting older and older, we chase the youth that we used to have. And we really long for the use where we had before. And in this pandemic, it's probably not hard to feel this kind of longing for the past or the future. You know, the vacations that you used to have, where you can travel to different places. And we can be chasing the past in this way. You know, whatever accomplishments that we may have had in our earlier careers and work and job, family, or maybe even, you know, you were the dance champion in high school. And so in the sutta, and this is a Majjhima Nikaya 131, where this poem shows up. And the Buddha explained this. How does one chase after the past? And he said, one gets carried away with the delight of, in the past, I had such a form or such a body. In the past, I had such a feeling. In the past, I had such a perception. In the past, I had such a thought fabrication or mental formation. In the past, I had such a consciousness. This is called chasing after the past. I don't know if everyone is familiar with this particular formula in that the Buddha is pointing at how one gets stuck in the past and getting carried away by it in these ways that are related to ourselves through this this list that's called the Five Aggregates. These are the things that we often identify as ourselves. I, me, mine. This is me. And I'm struck by the keyword that's being used here by the Buddha, and that is, he defines how one chases the past by that one would take delight in the past. And this form of a taking delight could be, you know, really getting consumed by the past, in that, you know, that there may be pleasant experiences we had before and who we were before in the past. And this taking delight could also happen even when it's unpleasant experiences, unpleasant history. We could be defined by those. And when we're being defined by them, we get hooked by the past. Even when we do not like them. You know, sometimes I can see, you know, and sometimes I had a certain recognition that, you know, I used to be this way. I really didn't like it. But somehow being really annoyed by it, I actually get hooked by how I get myself identified with those. And so this is taking delight in the past, this way or that way, how we are. And how does one not chase after the past? And the Buddha continued by saying, well, if one does not get carried away with the delight in the past, in that in the past I had this kind of a form, or the feelings, the perception, or the mental formations, or the consciousness, and then this is called not chasing after the past. And so the formula is quite simple. You know, if we stop being consumed, to stop taking delight in the past, And we no longer have that kind of uh, force in us to begin to chase the past anymore. So there's a recognition that there is a possibility, there is a choice not to get swept away in the past. So how do we really do that? In our meditation practice, in our mindfulness practice, when I begin to notice that one is being hooked by the memory and by the history, by the stories that we lived in the past, and that's when we begin to have a choice. Well, we see, wow, here I am, but I'm hooked by this story, and I recognize this is happening. When we begin to recognize that this is happening, this is where detaching from being taking delight in them, or detaching from being attracted by the past, the story of the past, we can begin to loosen the hook with it. And often what happens is, when we're being mindful, we can, for example, rest our attention in the body, shifting from the stories of the past to what's happening in our body. Then the memory and the images that came from the past can simply become kind of a ripple that flow through in our awareness. There's no need for the story of the memory and the past to take a foot in us. So it's possible that our mind may have thoughts of the past or the stories, but they don't have to be a problem. It's when we begin to take delight in them and really being consumed by them that we get swept away. But when we're aware, we can see the memories as simply memories. They flow through like clouds in the wide open sky. And similarly, how does one long for the future? The Buddha used a similar language. When one gets carried away with the delight in the future, I might become this way. I might become that way. And this is becoming, this is what in the sutta it says, this is called placing expectations on the future. We all have this kind of experience in our own lived experience, right? And maybe there are lots of examples that we can take. When we're not comfortable with what is happening here and now, sometimes we construct a future in our head. And then we hook onto this kind of constructed experience, and we really go after that, and to pull us out of what is happening in the present experience. And so this form of expectations in the future is a construction of, it is a form of a mental construction. And we can believe in them so strongly that they become almost real for us. And similarly, the Buddha kind of explained, how not to place expectations in the future. And the The same formula was prescribed by do not get carried away with the delight in the future. And it's easy said than done. We all know that it's very easy to fall into this form of taking delight. But what it takes is to become recognized that this is happening. Maybe expectation or projection is happening. And allow ourselves to then rest into the field of awareness. To simply notice projection being projection. And planning being planning. Or expectations being expectations. Sometimes they're really momentary. Maybe they're just one or two thoughts. They come and go, just like a snap of the finger. But if we feed onto them, continue to plan and tell our stories, and this can become something really big, take us away. But when we began to see this expectations as simply being expectations, the thoughts as the thoughts, and there is a real sense of a lightness in all of these experiences. And so the next stanza, the Buddha brought us back to where it is here and now. Why right where it is? Have insight into whatever phenomena is present, not faltering and not agitated. By knowing it, one develops mind. And so it's pointing at this moment is where we live. The present moment, the present experience, the present phenomenon is where we live. And this is where insight can happen. And this is where we practice. This is the field of our practice. But very interesting though, in this sutta, it says that even in this practicing with the present experience, there can be two ways. And one way is skillful, and one way is not very skillful. So when I first read this, I was kind of puzzled. Wow, I thought being present was, would be all good and fine. But there can be a way that when we're being present, there can be still unskillfulness in there. So how is that possible? And so let's take a look at this. So what happens is with respect to the present experiences, the present qualities, an unskilled person can take whatever is arising as I, me, mine. So what happened? So whatever is happening in one way, an unskillful way, is that we take that this is me. For example, right now, if there is a little moment of a sadness that happened in the field of emotion, one way to relate to this sadness, momentary sadness, is that I'm a sad person. I've always been sad. There is so much sorrow in me. Now what happens? We began to construct myself in this simple moment of a sadness, a moment of grief. Oh my God, I am really miserable. I've always been very miserable. I don't know how to get out of this. And this is what the Buddha is pointing at. We can make self out of the momentary experience that's happening. And when we do this, what happens is we get hardened into these experiences. And this becomes more permanent than what it is. And most of the time, our emotions flows up and down this way and that way throughout the day. But we can oftentimes hook onto certain forms of emotion and make it ourselves. I remember Gil Fransto sometimes would teach that it is more skillful to be situational centric rather than self-centric. Or, in another word, in this particular sutta, maybe we can say it's a phenomenon-centric rather than self-centric. Whatever phenomena or situation that comes about in our present lived experience, we simply see this as the situation or the phenomena. And this is a skillful way of being with our experiences. And the self-centric approach would be turning everything that is happening into something related to I, me, and mine. And for example, if you drop a plate on the floor, maybe the immediate reaction would be, I am so sloppy. But is it really all about you? Or is it just, this is a situation that just happened? And so when we get identified with the situation, what happens is there can be a lot of dukkha, a lot of stress that comes along with it. Our experiences become stuck and no longer flows like the clouds in the sky. And so the opposite, and that if we're not taking this phenomenon and situations as I mean mine, and there can be simple, transient, changing experiences arising and passing. And when this happens, there can be a quality of not being wavered or shaken by agitation, by faltering. The agitation happens when there is a center, like the center of self. When there is no center of self, the agitation cannot shake anything. There's nothing to shake. So when one develops the mind in this way, mind will no longer be shaky or restless. And so the poem goes on by encouraging this. And so the next stanza says, ardently do what should be done today. Who knows, death may come tomorrow. There's no bargaining with mortality and his great army. I don't know what more is to be said about this particular line, because it is true. We don't know. We don't know when death may come. It may not even be tomorrow, maybe next moment. And I know this can sound untrue, unreal, but we really don't know. And oftentimes, our intellectual mind understands that, when everybody gets born and death will be part of it. I think one of my teachers, Philip Moffat, sometimes would like to quote his teacher, Jiangsu Meito, and that birth has a death as life sentence. And it's true. And yet we often live our lives with a complete denial that this might happen to us. It might happen anytime. And so the Buddha knows this and knows the preciousness of a practicing in this moment, here and now. And so ardently do what should be done today. Ardently do what should be done right now. Because we don't know. And the poem ended with this line: whoever dwells thus, ardent, active, day and night, is, says the peaceful sage, one who has an auspicious day. I love this definition because oftentimes we associate auspicious day with some, special days. Like yesterday, I know it's a full moon day. And even in the Buddhist tradition, and maybe many different spiritual traditions, full moon days is considered to be auspicious day. But the Buddha had a different definition for this. Whoever dwells thus ardent, active day and night, practicing ardently day and night, this, says the peaceful sage, is the one who has an auspicious day. I love it because this makes the practice very accessible. We don't have to wait for some special day in order to practice. This day, if we practice here and now, it's an auspicious day. The other translation, a single excellent night, or an excellent day. And so we just need to become fully present, become aware of what is happening, cultivating our mind skillfully, seeing what's true right in front of us. And this is where the peace lies, and this is where the freedom is found. I'm going to close tonight by just reading this poem one more time. Maybe by now the few lines even sinked in you in some way. The Buddha said, "Don't chase the past or long for the future. The past is left behind. The future is not yet reached. Right where it is, have insight into whatever phenomenon is present, not faltering and not agitated, by knowing it one develops the mind. Ardently do what should be done today. Who knows? Death may come tomorrow. There is no bargaining with mortality and his great army. Whoever dwells thus, ardent, active, day and night, is, says the peaceful sage, one who has an auspicious day. May you all have an excellent night. So take good care